We're going to be having her on stage today. I like her already.
And Jean-Leah Njoroge also holds a PhD in computational material science and engineering, and she's with us today as a data scientist at Dell EMC. Would you please put your hands together for Jean-Leah Njoroge?
Karibu.
Next up, an equally beautiful and talented woman. Her name is Celina Lee. Celina Lee is the CEO of Zindi Africa, my bad. And some fun facts about Ms. Celina Lee. She's passionate about unleashing the power of data for social good. Somebody say unleashing. Tell your neighbor unleashing. Zindi Africa, thank you, is a data science competition platform for Africa. And Celina has lived and worked in 3 continents. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Celina Lee.
Karibu. And we were supposed to have Dr. Reginald Mengi today, but unfortunately due to factors that we couldn't handle, he's not going to be with us today. But hopefully something will give. But we also have somebody else, Beng'i Issa. Now, she happens to be the executive director of NEEC, NEEC. Karibu sana. Big round of applause to her. And unfortunately, we are also, why do I keep on saying unfortunately?
It's not unfortunate.
Clearly, I'm the
bearer of bad news. There are 3 wonderful girls on this panel.
That's what I like.
International Day of the Girl Child.
Hey!
Hello. Okay, 4. I'm also here. 4.
Now, you know what? I'm also going to be here because inclusion, men and women for others. So I'm going to be taking part in this, not in the panel, but celebrating ladies today. We're supposed to have Clifford O'Derrick from SBSA Liquid Telecom, but unfortunately, me being the bearer of bad news, he's not here with us right now. But we do have other people as well.
Actually, our moderator for this panel will be none other than Jumanne Mtambalike. You already know him as the founder and CEO of Sahara Ventures, a social entrepreneur who actually studied computer science. And the thing I found out about him today is he's a lover of music, and particularly hip-hop. So in my other life, I would ask you to come up here and spit rhymes, because that is the terminology that is used. You spit rhymes as a rapper. Are you a rapper?
I'm afraid that the data might turn into bars. 16 bars and above.
Put your hands together for Jumanne Mtambalike as our moderator for this particular session. Karibu sana.
Good morning. Why so serious? It doesn't have to be this serious. Yeah, so once again, thank you so much. I'm the CEO and founder of Sahara Ventures. And Sahara Sparks is one of our entities. And we're very happy to host you here today. And I will be moderating this session with my lovely ladies here. We are going to have very interesting input from them. And without wasting time, I would like to give them at least a chance to introduce themselves formally. So please, you can start from here. Madam Beng'i Issa.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Beng'i Issa. I'm the Executive Secretary of National Economic Empowerment Council. The National Economic Empowerment Council is a public institution under the Prime Minister's office. It's our responsibility to oversee implementation of the National Economic Empowerment Policy in Tanzania. So in doing so, we work in collaboration with public institutions and also private institutions. And we have a specific focus on issues related to youth, women, and people with disabilities. Sorry?
It's not coming out of microphone. Maybe you should go.
Okay. Yeah, so we do so many things, but we do empowerment. And the innovation is part of the empowerment. We also do entrepreneurship. We also do local content and so on and so forth. Thank you.
Celina.
Hi. Hi, my name is Celina Lee, and I'm the CEO of Zindi. Zindi's a data, I don't know if you can hear me well. It's okay. Zindi's a data science competition platform for Africa. I personally have worked in development for many years and looked at the role of data to really accelerate the impact of development topics such as financial inclusion, public health, gender equality, and I think that data is a very powerful tool, and we're in a really special time at this moment where data is everywhere. Every single day of our lives we generate data, and it's suddenly become an opportunity to actually bolster implementation and bolster the interventions that we can make to improve people's lives. So I'm hoping that Zindi will help create a platform where we can really accelerate this agenda.
Jean-Leah.
Hi, so my name is Jean, and first I straddle between two continents, one that has defined who I am and one that has shaped my ideologies. And that is why I'm here, because this continent defined me, but half of my life I spent in the US. So I'm a data scientist, and working in the cusp of technology. I've been in technology for a long period of time, but most importantly, I am here because I am ready to start championing that knowledge from Africa. And starting next year, I'm developing an impact investing fund to be able to extract those ideas from everybody here and be able to accelerate that innovation to be able to help and shape the future of Africa, because this is the future and we need to participate in it. Thank you.
Great. So I would like to start with Celina. When they are saying about things you love to do is data for social impact. So we hear all these terms, data for social impact, data for development, data for good, data for this, data for that. How do we really make data matter to a very normal person in a very meaningful way? How do we do that from your experience working with Zindi?
Yeah, I think that's a good question, because that is one of the challenges. At the end of last year, GSMA said that the number of unique mobile subscribers in Africa had reached over 400 million unique mobile subscribers, which is tremendous, but it also means that it only represents 44% of the population. So whereas in other countries where a lot of the innovations around artificial intelligence, machine learning is being developed in the US and Europe, those are very different contexts. Those are very different environments. The challenges are different, and so I think that this is one of the major things that within the African context, we're going to have to think about how you can create homegrown solutions that really apply to the problems and the challenges that Africa is facing. Mm-hmm. So some of the ways that data science or machine learning can impact normal and everyday people. Zindi's hosting a few competitions right now. One of them is to optimize public transportation into Nairobi. That's something that almost everybody in Nairobi is going to be able to benefit from. Another one is on the Sustainable Development Goals. We're looking at ways to automate the classification of different documents around the Sustainable Development Goals so that governments and agencies that are working in these areas will be able to immediately access in almost real time the different information that's out there on the Sustainable Development Goals. So there's a lot of use cases that are worth exploring.
Okay. Yes, you can add on.
So I just want to add to the idea of impact. So when I look at the number right there are 442 tech hubs in Africa. That's data. That's data that's showing a trend. And what's that trend? It's showing that the future, you're shaping the future of education. So to me as a data scientist, I look at that number and I say, there's something happening in here. And whether we like it or not, you are shaping the future of education in the African continent because there's something missing in that education system in such a way there are like 442 tech hubs in Africa today. So you're shaping, so to me, I look at that data from a just very basic perspective, right? And then you can start adding the different demographics to start understanding the different trends and how to shape that education system.
Yeah, thank you. Ms. Beng'i Issa, I'm coming back to you. So, being a government rep in this panel, so we've been talking about the importance of data, the importance of innovation, the importance of technology as a cross-cutting issue. How do you see African government adopting policies and regulations that can enhance usage of innovation and data to foster socioeconomic development?
Thank you. What I will say is that, first of all, I'd like to acknowledge the fact that data is very important. The challenge that I see in Tanzania, currently we have our own strategy, like industrialization, which need data a lot in terms of what the requirements by the industries, like requirements of raw materials and where the raw materials can come from. Currently, we see this challenge that most of the industries in Tanzania are actually importing raw materials. However, we also have farmers in Tanzania who are producing, and we thought we could link the two together for industries that can acquire raw materials here in the country. What is lacking here is data. The information is not flowing from the demand to the supply side. So I still see this as a challenge, and I would like to say that innovation and data issues that we are discussing today are the key to solve the social problems. And we should take this as a challenge, because the government also needs to work with the private sector in order to challenge ourselves and also to solve our problems. We have so many challenges whereby if we use the technology properly and if we use our innovations properly, I'm sure we can get ahead very well under the current circumstances.
Okay, thank you. Jean, being a data scientist and a technical person, so one of the issues I said in my speech area today was technology is good, but it's just a tool. And sometimes if you don't use it carefully, it has a tendency of creating inequality, leaving some of the people outside. Maybe it can be gender-wise, it can be in terms of their community level and social status. So how do we ensure inclusivity when it comes to use data for social good, as Celina said?
Wow, so that's an interesting question. So how do we ensure that everybody is not left behind? I personally don't think that's a data problem. I think it's a culture problem, right? So we have to make sure that we are taking enough information, recording that information, because that information becomes data. If you're not making records, we don't have data, right? So right now here we are exchanging information, but we are not recording it. So we are not taking data, right? So if we are not taking data, we cannot understand how to be inclusive with everybody, you know, who's being left, who's being taken ahead. So it's a matter of us learning from the African continent. We need to learn how to record the data and know that this data is going to empower us. Empower us in a more, in a different way, that we have to be able to be sustainable, such that as a continent, we are able to use that data to start innovating, to start making sure that everybody has a seat on the table. You know, but it's that record. That record, we need to extract that record from whatever it is.
Yes, you can add on.
A question about inclusivity. I actually think that this is a very important point about data being recorded. There's actually two dimensions, I think, in terms of using big data, in terms of using big data to create machine learning and artificial intelligence. One is the data sources. You need representation in the data that you're actually analyzing, but you also need representation in the people and the minds that are being applied to that data. A solution that an American data scientist would develop will be very different from a solution that a Kenyan data scientist would develop. The perspective is different, the fundamental understanding of the context, the needs, the challenges. I think just, the thing is, people think about data science as kind of this very objective thing, but it's actually an art form. Okay, you agree? Yes, it's actually an art form. There's a lot of human element actually in all of the models that are built. So we need to ensure inclusivity on both of the sides.
Okay. Yeah, back again to Ms. Beng'i Issa. So we have seen the charts and the numbers, and it seems with data we can be very well informed in terms of making key strategic decisions. So one of the challenges that we've been facing is that a lot of data is being collected, and the government is spending a lot of money to collect data from the local government level. And these data are being processed to be used. But most of the time, they're not being used to make key strategic decisions. Now, what is the course of action we should take to make sure we innovate at the grassroots level and use data to make key informed decisions in the agriculture sector, in the health sector, and other sectors?
Thank you very much. I think one way of doing it is to make sure that, first of all, after data collection, we have to share the information to understand the real situation in the country, but to put up a strategy or to give ourselves, objectives or targets on whereby our decisions can be implemented based on those data. In Tanzania currently, we have, in financial inclusion, for example, we are estimating to have only 14% of Tanzanians who can access formal financial services. And through the mobile phones, about 65% of the population actually access financial services, which we call it informal way of accessing financial services. So what I would like to say is that we can be innovating around this issue to make sure that we include more Tanzanians in financial services by using, because we now know that most of the Tanzanians, even when in gender perspective, even women who sometimes they not own anything, at least they own a phone. And therefore, they can use their phone to access financial services. So we can be more innovative around that area to make sure that we include more people to get financial services. Because as we know, to empower people, financial services is one of the things. But not only that one sector. Other sectors such as transportation, agriculture, tourism, etc., they need to be informed by data, and so that they can make proper decision for their well-being. We understand that in empowerment there are so many factors that people should access in order to be empowered. They should get good transportation. They should be able to move from one place to another easily. They should have communication easily. They should be access to finance is one of them, but markets is another thing that I've talked about initially, and so many other things. So in order for all this to work properly and to make sure that we are empowered, we have to use the data, the researches that we have or we do, so that we can make proper decisions and put up strategies to overcome areas where we think we can improve.
Thank you so much. So Jean, I'm back to you again. So I was going through this article on World Economic Forum about the future of jobs and skills, and your job was well rated. So why do you think, and do you think currently Africa needs data scientists? And if we don't need data scientists currently, do you think we'll need more data scientists in the future? Why does Africa need data scientists now?
So not only does Africa need data scientists, the world needs data scientists because we have so much data. So the key to extracting insights out of this data is analysis, right? So that analysis that helps you derive decisions so that you can understand about the traffic in Nairobi, or you can understand about what you're gonna do next year about this conference, right? So that's data. So you need that skill set to be able to get that data, analyze it, and extract insights that will help you make decisions. So that's number one. So does Africa need data scientists? Yes. Like yesterday. So we need to figure out how to develop that skill set that's embedded in data science is very interdisciplinary. So you have to merge the art and the sciences, the social versus the engineering, the programming versus the business acumen. So you have to merge all those elements in a data science person, or not even in a person, a team, right? So create a team that has those kind of elements so that you're able to extract information in the most efficient and reliable and scalable way, because with data, you create data products, right? So that skill set is going to be in demand, and it's not only can we not, if we train data scientists in Africa, they're in demand everywhere in the world, right? So you could be sitting in Dar es Salaam and doing a data science project in New York City, you know? So that skill set, we need to start figuring out how to train, how to extract that kind of knowledge from
the skill set.
people. Yes.
So, Celina, how do we bridge the skill set?
Yeah, I completely agree that we really need to focus on capacity building and data science. I think the other element that we have to think about is giving data scientists in Africa that platform, that space to not only hone their skills, but also build up their experience, build up their portfolio, I guess, of successes. That's something that Zindi's trying to do, I think, as well, the innovation hubs, like giving them a platform where they can show off the skills that they have, because you would be surprised how many data scientists there actually are in Africa. They may not have had the opportunities to connect with all of the opportunities and the needs that exist in Africa. So we need to also raise awareness among those organizations that hold data, for them to appreciate the power that data can bring to them. And we also have to create the spaces for the data scientists in Africa to show off their skills and make those connections with those opportunities.
Okay.
I'm actually very excited about Zindi. I just discovered it the other day. And to me, I'm going to talk about in the US, you won't get hired as a data scientist if you don't have a portfolio of projects under your belt. You know, so I just discovered Zindi like 2 weeks ago, and I was so excited to be here with Celina. I was like, oh my goodness, you know. So I'm sure we're going to have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, so Ms. Beng'i Issa again. So how do you see the private sector working with the government sector to build a stable data innovation ecosystem? How should the private sector work with you guys?
Yeah, first of all, I would like to acknowledge the fact that even now, as a government, we work very closely with the private sector on all issues related to data and the technology. For everything that is public only or it's being operated by the private sector. I would like to see more involvement of private sector and to invest on innovations that can solve our social problems. Because we know that in entrepreneurship, we can use our social challenges to get the opportunity to go around the innovation and come up with opportunity to solve our problems and also to raise employment of our youth in the country. So what I would like to see also is that the data scientists themselves should lower themselves, should go down to earth so that they can translate and analyze the data that we have so that everybody can understand them. And if not only understanding the data, but what kind of interventions we can put to, so that for people like decision makers who doesn't know about the data, they can understand what does this mean and how can we put an intervention to solve this kind of a challenge. So I'm very happy for this forum because I see this is just a starting point whereby we can solve our own problems and we can give challenge to different companies, especially companies from Africa. And that's why we have also companies from outside the country so that we can learn from each other and see how we can solve our problems. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So this will be a question for wrapping up. So we hear every day, data is a new oil, data is a new oil, data can be used for this, data can be used for that. But to some extent, to most of us, 2.5 quintillion million bytes of data doesn't mean a lot if it doesn't change my life or if it doesn't bring ugali or fufu on the table. It's just a bunch of numbers, if you know what I'm trying to say. So how do we transform data from being crude oil to oil that can actually empower people, create opportunities, and stuff like that? So, Jean.
So, very interesting question. So, how do we get, and you're right, data, there's an adage we have in my job is garbage in, garbage out, right? If data is as good as you look at it, if it's not analyzed properly, if it's not looked at it in a way that it's extracting value, it's garbage in, garbage out. So how do we extract value from an African perspective? We need to invest in infrastructure. To understand and analyze data, you need a robust infrastructure that is able to handle the millions of data, whether it's in the cloud, whether it's in the data centers. And then we need to also invest in capacity building, right? Because when you train people to help you understand the data, number one, you're making good decisions, right? And number two, you're creating employment. And number three, you're creating data products, right? That can go into the commercial market and helps you put like the fufu, the ugali on the table, right? So it's that understanding how to commercialize the data involves a lot of foundational work in infrastructure, what they call data infrastructures. Data infrastructure and the skill set.
Data infrastructure and skills. Celina?
So I also think that this is a case for the role of government and the international donors that are out there, because artificial intelligence and machine learning was developed in a for-profit space, and there's a reason to invest in artificial intelligence in a for-profit space because it can make you a lot of money, and that's completely legitimate and completely fine. But where there's less profit to be made, who's going to make an investment in the other applications of artificial intelligence and machine learning? We have to create an environment where those types of initiatives and that type of research, that type of effort is placed in a place where we can help all people, whether or not a profit is to be derived. I mean, what's interesting is that some of the same principles apply. I mean, customer service driven by artificial intelligence means that what you're trying to do is anticipate a demand for certain things, anticipate what people will want next. You can also apply that to medicine. Where are people going to need malaria medicine? Where are people going to need more clinics? Those types of things. That's the same principle, but we need to find a space and the support for those types of applications.
Okay.
Yeah. What I would like to say is that we need data information to be transformed or translated into simpler version and be used for our own developments. In Tanzania, for example, we are estimating to have about 3 million entrepreneurs at any time. Some of the businesses come up, some of the businesses, they die, but most of the time we have about 3 million entrepreneurs. But what we have seen for those entrepreneurs, it's only 11% of them, they use ICT. So we all know that if you use ICT in our businesses, we are going to prosper, because that's how you can network, you can connect with other people, you can also learn, and you can get clients, you can get suppliers, and so on and so forth. So there is a need, there is a gap between what we do in entrepreneurship and the use of ICT in our businesses. We need to, and I know this is your job, we need to do more to make sure that we do that, so that our entrepreneurs, they are exposed, they know the ICT and can use ICT to make their businesses expand more and to network. Because most of the challenges we have for entrepreneurs, they don't network. And if you don't network, you'll never know about other opportunities, you'll never know about the challenges and how those challenges are being tackled by others. So I would like to give the challenge to this group of people today that please work around that area to make sure that entrepreneurship in general also includes ICT or information technology, so that to do business in a more, advanced way and in a better fashion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, my panelists. It has been exciting having this short conversation with you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Celina. Thank you, Jean. Thank you, Ms. Beng'i Issa. Thank you so much. Thank you.